Greetings, my friends. It's Carrie Konyha at holisticspsychic.com in Sedona, Arizona, coming on to share some insights around the solar eclipse coming up here on April 8th in the sign of Aries. I'm going to talk about the astrology, and then at the end of this video, I'm going to be pulling some tarot cards for each sign so that you get more of a personal message for yourself. Let's go ahead and jump in here. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Again, my name is Carrie Konyha. I'm a professional psychic reader, shamanic energy healing practitioner, teacher, and soul guide in Sedona, Arizona. I love working with astrology to help inform and guide our journeys in spiritual awakening, healing, and empowerment. And that's what we're looking at here today. So before I get into the energies showing up around the actual eclipse day, I want to talk a little bit about the astrological energies leading up to the eclipse. So on April 1st, Mercury went retrograde in the sign of Aries. When Mercury is in Aries, one of the things that's good to be mindful of is thinking before we speak. Aries is ruled by Mars, which is the energy of the warrior. It's all about taking action in regard to our passions, our enthusiasms. And sometimes we can allow those things to get a little bit of ahead of ourselves. And so while Mercury is in retrograde, being that Mercury is the planet that is connected to communication, it's important to just be mindful of the possibility of being impulsive with our words and, again, thinking before we speak. Generally speaking, when Mercury is retrograde, it's more of a time of introspection. It's a time of reassessing our direction. And as we are coming into the solar eclipse, that energy is completely aligned and appropriate for what we're about to step into. I'm going to get into that in a minute. But first, I want to say on April 4th, Venus moves into the sign of Aries. Venus is all about harmony, love, beauty. Aries is connected to our self-expression, our self-identity, and channeling our drive in that direction. So Venus in Aries is a lot about charging forward in alignment with our passions, in alignment with what we want to create and manifest. The energy right now, generally for the month of April, is really conducive to manifestation energy because we have so many planets in the sign of Aries, which compels us forward. It compels us to channel our energies and harness the power of our drive in alignment with what our deepest passions and enthusiasms are. So Venus is contributing to that. It's going to be in Aries for about 3 weeks or so, about the same time span that Mercury is going to be in Aries. And then on April 6th, we have Venus and Aries making a sextile aspect to Pluto in Aquarius. And this feels like it's about embracing the beauty path of transformation, meaning we're living and walking in alignment with a sense of connection with internal beauty, meaning peace, harmony, alignment, attunement, and embracing transformation from that space, lovingly, openly embracing, walking on the path of beauty in regard to our personal transformation. And that theme is going to be prevalent really throughout as we're leading into the eclipse and then the weeks after the eclipse as we're coming into the next full moon. So it's a lot about positive transformation. It's a lot about rising above into our exalted, empowered, healed selves, which leads me up to talking a little bit more about the energy showing up around the actual eclipse day, which is April 8th. And on this day, we have the sun, the moon in exact conjunction with Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid that is connected to the archetype of the wounded healer. What does that mean? Wherever Chiron is in your chart shows you what are the prevalent themes around core wounds that you either brought into this incarnation with you to heal throughout this lifetime, or that perhaps occurred in your early childhood that you are here to transmute in this lifetime. So, the story, the myth of Chiron is that as we seek what we need for our own healing and we achieve healing, that enables us to be uniquely experienced in ways that we are able then to hold space for other people's healing. So, this conjunction between the sun, the moon, and Chiron on this eclipse ultimately is big shifts in healing because Chiron is direct in Aries right now, which happened at the end of January of this year, which brings in more of a feeling of accomplishment of healing. And this eclipse is activating that even more. Now, this eclipse is a North Node eclipse. The North Node represents our true soul calling. So, North Node in Aries brings us into a renewed enthusiasm to move in the direction of our calling. The themes are connected to our self expression, our self identity, and so, with this eclipse coinciding with the North Node in Aries, collectively, there's going to be themes around us all getting back to our true nature or activating the true nature of who we are at this time in our lives right now. This eclipse is happening at 19 degrees of Aries. The sun is at 19 degrees, the moon is at 19 degrees, and Chiron is at 19 degrees. The Sabian symbol, which are symbols for each sign of the zodiac that were channeled by a psychic medium long ago, this Sabian symbol connected to 19 degrees Aries is a flying carpet, flying over a scenery of industriousness happening over the land. So ultimately, this represents getting a bird's eye view, getting a bigger picture. It's about getting out of the 3D ins and outs of our daily reality and remembering our overarching intention, our overarching calling, if you will. And it compels us to utilize the energy of creativity, utilizing our right brain more than our left brain, our intuitiveness, our creativity over logic right now. And so this brings to mind something that I was researching earlier this week that I want to share with you, which is the Native American wisdom teachings around especially solar eclipses. In accordance to Native American traditions, at least the traditions here in the Southwest, the solar eclipse times since ancient times have been seen as being a symbolic death and rebirth. And so it's a time of going within. Many of you probably are instinctively feeling that the time period between this lunar eclipse we just had about 2 weeks ago and the solar eclipse that we're getting ready to have on the 8th, you probably are already feeling a little bit more introspective, especially with Mercury retrograde now, a little bit more geared towards going within. And that type of practice is aligned with the ancient wisdom practices and teachings connected to solar eclipses. And so, with this being at 19 degrees of Aries, this tells us specifically how we want to have introspection. We want to have introspection around our own bigger picture of our life. It's so easy for us sometimes to get caught up in the little dramas that happen in our daily life that we forget our larger nature. And so the introspectiveness, the going within, the reconsidering, the reevaluating that we can do now is connected to remembering who we are on that bigger picture level. Remember what your bigger objectives are, your bigger sense of calling, your bigger passions and enthusiasms. In fact, fire is the main element connected to this eclipse season. And that's because we have so many things happening in the sign of Aries right now. Not only do we have the sun, the moon, and Chiron in Aries, but we also have Venus moving into Aries on the 4th, and we have Mercury in Aries as well. So fire energy is expansive, it's transformative, it's light, it ignites the passions of our souls and compels us to propel ourselves forward in alignment with what our biggest passions and enthusiasms are. Fire relates to the solar plexus chakra. The solar plexus chakra is the center in which we can channel our will. It's a right use of will, channeling our will in alignment with our biggest enthusiasms. The enthusiasms and passions and sense of calling and purpose of our soul, not our ego mind. There's a big difference there. So, as we're coming into this eclipse on the 8th, we can expect to experience shakeups, breakthroughs, epiphanies, intense healing as we're shifting into new chapters of experience in our lives. In fact, the last time we had a solar eclipse in Aries at this exact degree of 19 degrees was in 2005, in April of 2005. So, if you can recall back what was going on in April of 2005, what were you doing at that time? What was the new beginnings happening in your life? What was the new pathway shaping up? Where were there new possibilities, potentials unfolding, new timelines? And this energy now is a repeat of that theme, but of course, in ways that are aligned with where you are at this point in your life today. If you look back to 2005, the spring of 2005, I believe it was April 18th of 2005, you will notice that in some way there was this feeling of opening and flowering and blossoming in a way that felt connected to empowerment, personal empowerment. And that's what we're experiencing now, especially with Chiron supporting that energy of us being able to drop into our healed, empowered selves. We've got some things happening right after the eclipse that are further supporting the unfoldment of the activation that happens on the eclipse. And by the way, the activation that happens on this eclipse is not only for a few days or a week, but it's actually going to be unfolding for the next 6 months on one level. But this is also the beginning of a cycle that's going to be like the next 18 and a half years. We really are at the threshold of a path of empowerment that's going to be unfolding nearly over the next 2 decades. So I encourage us all to really choose wisely how you want to apply your focus, your energy, what you want to dedicate your life direction to, because whatever it is that you're consciously or unconsciously deciding to apply your focus and energy in the direction of is what's going to be initiating the foundations of growth that you will be experiencing over the next 2 decades. On April 10th, right after the eclipse, we have Mars in Pisces conjunct Saturn in Pisces. And this brings us into the courage, the bravery to go for the gusto of our biggest, most passionate, soulfully felt goals and dreams. We have that energy to harness the power of. And then on April 11th, the sun conjuncts Mercury in Aries, which activates an internal sense of enthusiasm around big ideas that we have that more than likely are going to be connected to whatever those passions are that's stirring within us and desiring to be awakened, experienced, expressed, explored, created, or manifested right now. Initiative is a huge energetic theme that's playing out over the next few weeks as we're moving through this eclipse energy. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about before I get into the cards here, and I am going to do a separate video about this because this is pretty significant. On April 20th, we have Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus. That energy is expansion and growth through embracing new developments and the adventure of change. Now, this aspect only happens once every 12 years. So it's pretty significant, which is why I'm going to do a separate video about that specifically. But keeping the energy of initiative, courage, bravery, harnessing the power of the energies of our true soul passions rising up, bubbling up from within us, and guiding ourselves forward along those lines. It's within that energy that I'm going to be looking at the cards for each sign. And so I'll say here that this is going to be most accurate for you if you know your rising sign. And the reason for that is I'm reading based on the rising sign because that lets me know what house of the 12 houses that the eclipse is going to fall in for you. If you don't know your rising sign, I'm going to put a link in the description box below that will prompt you through some simple directions of how you can create your chart for yourself for free online. Of course, if you would like a personal reading with me about the eclipse energies, feel free to reach out. And then while I'm thinking of it, I want to remind you all that I do have my online Mastering Intuition course available as an on-demand video streaming format now. For those of you who have been ready to develop your intuition, now is a great time. This course is an amazing course. I've been teaching it since 1994, so it's super dialed in. It is a certification course, so once you complete all of the lessons, you do get a certificate of completion. And if you are at all curious to take my Art of Reading Tarot course that I'm going to be offering in the fall, or my Art of Psychic Reading course that I'm also going to be offering in the fall, taking the Intuitive Development course now is going to enable you to make the most of those other courses. And by the time you're finished with those other courses, with the Mastering Intuition course, you will be fully equipped to set out on your own journey of doing intuitive readings for others. So I'll put the link for that in the description box below. With that, let's go ahead and get into the cards. And by the way, I am available for one-on-one sessions. I do get pretty booked up, so it's best to get a hold of me ahead of time to get in the schedule. So first, we're going to look at Aries, Aries rising. If you are Aries rising, this solar eclipse is happening in your first house of self-identity. So with that, you might feel guided to literally do something to change your appearance. You may feel called to having some introspection around who you really are at this time in your life. I'm going to be using my Osho Zen Tarot today. This is the deck that I like to use for like deeper spiritual insights. And you can get this on my Amazon shop. There's going to be a link in the description box below. I have an Amazon shop where I feature all the different things that I utilize on this channel, including different tarot decks and things like that. Okay, so here we go. For Aries, let me just pick a card here. Let's see. Feels like it wants to be this one. Aries gets the friendliness card. So this is the energy of sharing. So for you, Aries, This is really interesting because oftentimes we really learn about ourselves by how we interact with others. This feels, I associate this card with, in a traditional tarot deck, would be like the Two of Cups. So it's sharing energetically in ways where there's a positive exchange of energy, a positive rapport, a positive vibrational harmony between you and whoever you're primarily sharing your energy with right now or in general. But it feels like for Aries, this is connecting with yourself more deeply or remembering who you are or getting back on track with who you are now through noticing how it is that you choose to interact with other people. Obviously, embracing friendliness, kindness, compassion, heart centered energies is a key for you as well, as it would relate to this card. If you are Taurus rising, then this eclipse is happening in your 12th house of your dreams. It can also be your secrets on a challenge, unconscious aspect. It can be self sabotage, self undoing. But I really encourage you to utilize the energy to tune into what your deep unconscious dreams are, because that is connected to the 12th house. And you have the maturity card coming up. So to me, this says you are ripe and ready to fully manifest or experience what those goals and dreams are, especially because Jupiter is in your sign right now, as well as Uranus, and you are going to be especially impacted by that Jupiter Uranus conjunction that happens on April 20th because it's in the sign of Taurus. So this is your time to shine. It's your time to gather up your energies, gather up your vision, your creative vision, and prepare to channel your energies in alignment with whatever your manifestation goals are. Again, based on the themes of the eclipse, meaning your true, deep passions and enthusiasms. Okay, so if you're a Gemini, the eclipse is happening in your 11th house of friendships, circles of networking, and it does also represent your wishes, your goals, and you have the guidance card coming up, and it showed up reversed. I do work with reversals in the tarot. And so for Gemini, what this means is really tuning into your own inner guidance in the reverse position, really tapping in and tuning in. Gemini can have a tendency to overthink sometimes, and overthinking is different than what our deep soul guidance is. So, finding a way to feel into your deep soul guidance, especially when it comes to 11th house themes of friendships, groups, social circles, networking circles for you right now. Really tap into your intuition around who your people are, who you want to align with, who you want to collaborate with, especially with collaborative goals, because that is 11th house themes. If you're a Cancer rising, then this is happening in your 10th house of social standing, long term goals. It can have to do with career as well. And the guilt card is coming up. So for Cancer, especially being the nurturing person that you are, you might be dealing with issues literally of guilt that are connected to you embracing yourself, your own individual path, rather than sacrificing who you are in order to support your loved ones. Okay, so this is bringing to mind a wisdom teaching around guilt that I learned from one of my first tarot teachers. And the teaching is this: guilt is actually an indicator of growth, because we can only experience the feeling of guilt if we have grown into a new perspective that is different than what we once had. So for you, Cancer, especially because this is connected to your long-term goals, your your place in your community and how you want to contribute to community, it is time for you to focus on your individual path without guilt. So letting go of that, and also not allowing your decisions to be inspired by guilt. This is not the time to be guilted into things. Okay. So there could also be an issue of boundaries coming into place as well. For Leo, if you're a Leo rising, then this eclipse is happening in your ninth house of worldliness. This is more than likely inspiring ambitions for literal travel or metaphoric travel through learning, studying, reading. The ninth house is connected to life philosophies from ancient cultures, foreign cultures. It's higher learning and development, meaning life philosophies and esoteric studies as well. And you have the card that's called the Miser. The Miser card is teachings about not keeping everything for yourself, but being in the energy of sharing and recognizing how sharing of yourself, sharing in the spirit of adventure is much more fun than claiming the limelight for yourself, which can be a Leo thing. Leo sometimes likes to be in the spotlight, which is great and fun, but it's even better when we share that spotlight with people that we love. And it feels like that is the message for you, Leo, is being inclusive. For example, if you feel guided to travel, traveling with friends or traveling to a destination where you're going to meet up with friends, where you can have a lot more social fun than you could by yourself, feels like it's very connected to this. It also is connected to the energy of abundance that comes through sharing. Sharing what you have brings that energy back to you. This is not the time to be Scroogey. It's not the time to be in scarcity consciousness at all. This is a really good time to trust the flow of abundance in your life and sharing blessings of abundance in ways that is you extending generosity. And that doesn't have to be financial generosity. It can be sharing your time, your energy, your space, your attention, smiling, right? Any positive energy that you're contributing to life is considered to be an act of generosity. And that's what you are being compelled to do, learning through sharing generosity for Leo rising people. For Virgo, this is happening in your eighth house of transformation and evolution. And the card that you have is Source. So, knowing that Virgo rising people are very much attention to detail oriented, ruled by Mercury, being very mentally sharp and organized. Transformation and evolution for you, eighth house, can be connected to deepening meditation practices, for example, going deep into yourself, shadow work type energy is connected to the eighth house. In some way, shape, or form, experiencing a personal renewal, rebirth. This eclipse is going to be a distinct, symbolic, shamanic death and rebirth. It is that for all of us, but for you, it's showing up in the house of that. So even more so. Let me know in the comments how you think that's showing up for you. For Libra, it's in your seventh house of long-term partnership. That can be any type of long-term partnership, not just life partner or romantic partner. It can be long-term partnerships that you have going on professionally, um, however it shows up for you. And interestingly, the card that you have coming up is participation. It did come up reversed, so I'm going to share what that means, but this is what the card looks like. This is about inclusiveness. When the participation card shows up reversed, it's a message about inclusiveness, literally participating. This could be a time of revitalizing long term partnerships by reaching out, connecting with people, re enlivening those connections for yourself. Business wise, this might look like reaching out to clients you haven't heard from in a while, or business partners that you haven't had contact with for a while. It's inviting collaboration with people that you've had long-term partnerships with, or collaborations with people who can become long-term partners. And again, this can be in any capacity of your life. For Scorpio rising people, this eclipse is happening in your 6th house of how you are of service, how you do your work routines and your health routines. And it's integration. The integration card is coming up. It showed up reversed, so I'll talk about that. Integration, harmonizing mind, body, spirit, holistic wellness. So when it comes up reversed, it's asking you to recognize areas where maybe you don't feel completely integrated or balanced on those holistic mind, body, soul levels, either in ways that you are of service. How can you bring more balance to the ways that you are of service to others and yourself? And how you can bring your health routines and your work routines into some type of integrated harmony balance. And a lot of times that means work life balance as well. For Sagittarius, this is showing up in your 5th house of pleasure, love affairs, romance. It also relates to creative self expression and children. And you have the letting go energy. So for Sagittarius rising people, your growth, your flourishing, this new chapter of experience that is happening for you regarding this eclipse comes through somehow letting go of something that maybe you've outgrown that's connected to creative self expression, romance, love affairs, pleasure. What have you outgrown and what are you ready to embrace? For Capricorn rising people, this is happening, the eclipse is happening in your 4th house of your most private life, your roots, your ancestry, your family of origin, your early childhood, your motherly influence, topics having to do with nurturing. Well, 2 cards came up, so I'm going to go ahead and read them both. It's sharing reversed and laziness reversed. So these both have to do with, if I'm looking at sharing reversed, hold on, let me just dial in. This feels actually that the sharing reversed is about the self-nurturing part of the 4th house for Capricorn. This is a strong time of self-nurturing for you, and a time where it's probably actually going to be beneficial for you to take some space for restfulness, going within so that you can recharge and feel more ready to bust into this breakthrough energy that we're all experiencing with the eclipse in a more rejuvenated way. Knowing Capricorn, and I know this well because my son is in Capricorn, Capricorns typically are hard workers and don't always take the time for self-rejuvenation. So self-nurturing, self-rejuvenation, so that you can move forward over the next many months in more of an energetically replenished way is going to enable you to actually achieve whatever your goals are. Okay, so Aquarius, rising people, this eclipse is happening in your third house of communication, sharing ideas, socializing. And it's the energy, it's the slowing down card reversed. So this is what the card looks like right side up, which is like a turtle, slow and steady wins the race. In the reverse position, I feel like it's about mindfulness around what you're sharing, how you're sharing it in the realm of your ideas, your life philosophies. This also can mean taking energy in regarding anything that you're learning or studying. This is going to be a good time for that. So for Aquarian rising people, more than likely, this new beginning that is connected to the eclipse is bringing you into a phase of, in the very least, self-directed study and education as a part of the bigger picture theme of this new chapter that's unfolding for you. And then Pisces, this is happening in your second house of possessions, what you value. It's also literally how you make money. And the card that came up is the inner voice card. This is like the high priestess card in a traditional tarot deck. So for Pisces, it's important for you to really listen to your intuition, which should be second nature to you because the Pisces energy is highly intuitive. Pay attention to your intuition around your possessions, your values. It could be your inner core life values, what you value in life, what you value and how you're making money, especially because of the Mars and Saturn conjunction that is coming up on April 10th in the sign of Pisces. This is going to be in the vicinity of wherever your sun sign is in your chart, which is the courage to go for your bigger dreams. So going for your bigger dreams may have to do with your financial growth goals. And your biggest tool is utilizing the power of your intuition and allowing that to guide you. I'm just going to say real quick here, the best way, practical way to hone your intuition is to pay attention to when you feel like you have an intuition and notice what the results of either following it or not following it are. The more you do that, each time you do that, it's like exercising a muscle and your intuition is going to become stronger. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here for today, guys. And I welcome all of you to contribute whatever you would like to contribute in the comments below regarding your personal experience with these energies or any questions you might have about the eclipse energies that are coming up, or questions that you might have that could be future topics that I do videos about as well. Check the description box below for the links that I talked about. I'm going to be coming on next week with a video about that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And so I look forward to seeing you all then. In the meantime, all my love, blessings, namaste, and I'll see you in the next one.